Once upon a time there was the fine town of Fandleton, a town that was raided by orcs and built back up from the ground up. In this town there was a boy named Yuzro who met a lass sighted by a wolf. This lass led them to a pimp who was 1 foot. This pimp led Yuzro to a fortnight-looking fellow who was a client. Later that night they robbed the fortnight-looking fellow and left. Yuzro and the pimp went to go find a missing person. After unknowingly being robbed, the fortnight-looking fellow went to a local pub to find what she was looking for. No one could have been prepared for the scene that was already set. A 6.5-foot 350-pound dwarf was beating the shite out of everyone in the pub. The majority of people were covered in blood laying on the floor, but those not knocked out or dead were being beaten by the dwarf. As the dwarf finished of the last still standing, the fortnight-looking fellow started to steal the coins in their pockets. The dwarf then revealed that he was actually a paladin and was beating the people in a bar after they had an unsuccessful heist towards one of the local shops. The dwarf then ran after the thief, breaking the only intact window left at the pub. The paladin lost track of the thief and went over to the local guards for help to find her. They later found her in a bush and arrested her. The paladin then made a deal with the thief. If she became a deputy, then she can be set free once again. The new deputy and the paladin went on their first case together. They were given a missing person case of an important figure who has relations to the mayor. They found an abandoned shed where they found evidence of recent Red Band activity. The Red Band are assholes who steal your stuff. They went into the basement and followed a secret door until they heard two people having an argument. They then led a sound to a single door and opened it. The door was opened to see a knight and a small pimp on the other side. There was also a mysterious lady who stayed in the shadows with a wolf at their side. How did Jimmy really not notice a person right out of the frame for the whole story until now? Whatever. Before they could talk, a group of skeletons attacked where they won by landslide. The knight then said that they were here to find the same person the mayor was looking for. They counted down the path until they found splitting pathways. The mysterious lady and the pimp stayed together and the rest went further down looking for the next door to open. The sound of an enchantment could be heard. If you were an expert, you could say it sounded like old person. Jimmy looked back as now lots of other sounds filled the room. Jimmy went out to figure out all the noise, but he was not ready for what he saw. He saw the mysterious woman paralyzed by old person as the pimp went to town. He wouldn't describe what the room looked like after, as he said the memories were too painful. He went back to the group visually scared and confused. The knight asked what happened, but the paladin didn't say much. Jimmy told him about the whole person that was set, and the knight went in to see what got him so distraught. When the knight went in, the walls were clean and not the way they were when Jimmy walked in. They then looked at the mysterious woman who was injured in several places and was bleeding severely down her legs. She was still bonded in the whole person, so she was left there, and that's how she died a horrid death. The group went on to find several things, such as a group of hostages that they set free and a storage room with several swords, spears, and crossbows. They also had a lot of beaver pelts, like 30 I think. Jimmy hoarded most of it, but the others got some stuff. They finally found a room filled with velvet cloth with the man they were looking for. After first attacking them, the group managed to get him unconscious and tied up for when he was revived. He later revealed to them he was the leader of the Red Bands. They just were talking to an asshole for the rest of the time until Jimmy suddenly yelled, "Hello," as if he just now regained consciousness. The Red Band leader got startled and insulted Jimmy, in which a bitch slap across the face followed. Then for being an ass he was raped and his tongue cut off. After remembering they were supposed to return this person, they flex sealed his tongue back on and went back to the town to put the butt sack behind bars. When they rolled into town, everyone tried to be cool but just ended up looking stupid. They then told Calzar one of his best friends actually betrayed him, and after that they were offered a job to kill some orcs at a camp. Jimmy, thinking that he is indestructible, accepted the job and ran away, leaving everyone else to catch up. Little did he know this would be a mistake later on. After a lot of walking, they are then attacked by some orcs. Jimmy gets angry at the orcs and talks smack about them, making them angrier. The orcs do a lot of dying, but sadly they were not the orcs they were looking for. The group travels upward and set up a campsite where the orcs were last seen. The one known as Fickle stays behind with the fortnight fellow while the paladin and knight have justice to serve. They look through the forest in the dark night when suddenly an angry ogre attacks. Jimmy, in a state of fury, starts to punch the orc, causing him to be knocked unconscious by the now injured ogre. The knight known as Yuzro manages to kill the ogre and drag Jimmy back to the camp where he recovers. With everyone awake, they go out to kill the orcs. The fortnight fellow, who wishes to be called Evelyn, and Fickle go to sneak on the lone novice orc guard but are spotted. Thankfully they are not found when a much higher orc is yelling and beating the other one. They send Evelyn as a scout, but when coming to report back is spotted. They then fight 8 orcs and an ogre. Needless to say, they were in for one of the hardest fights of their lives. Evelyn was knocked out the very first turn and was revived by Jimmy. Jimmy killed the leader before both him and Evelyn were knocked out. Fickle and Yuzro fought with everything they had, but Yuzro later fell. Fickle thought this was the end until an orc who caught him off guard was shot with a crossbow. Then Kalzar pops out to help fight. Together they kill the orcs and ogre. Jimmy and Evelyn wake up, but Yuzro was badly injured and not going to make it. He managed to make out a few dying words as he grew weaker and weaker. He suddenly went limp and everyone saw life drained from his eyes. The group took Yuzro's corpse to the town for a proper burial. Everyone showed their respect. Even Kawaii, Conrad, Kermit and Kalzar could make it. It was a very sad day for the group and they went back to the town for a measly reward of 100 gold. They went back to where the tongueless raped man was to drop off Kalzar, but the tongueless boy proceeded to mock the death of Yuzro. Jimmy and Fickle were infuriated and Fickle threatened to rape him again, but this time through the cells. Jimmy tried to pry the jail bars apart but wasn't strong enough, and he made himself sad knowing Yuzro could.